Hey everybody, great to have you back here in the fish tank. Now if you've been following with my recent videos, you know there's a lot of stuff going on with Minion Masters. We've had the new bridge rules that have been added in the latest patch, so they're now live. And we got the alternate master perks coming in the next patch, which is only like a couple of weeks away. So that is going to be version 2.6. So if you watch my recent video, you will have known the kind of the alternate master perks that have been proposed. Now, today we're going to be talking about the latest PTR. There's a public PTR open for Minion Masters, so if you want to get involved, I'll put a link in the description so you can do. And of course, get involved and crucially, give your feedback. So what this PTR is about is basically the balance of the alt perks. There's some that have changed a little bit based on the discussion that have been had after the original PTR, and we'll talk about those. And then also we've got the regular balance changes that will be coming up. So quite a lot to talk about. So let's dive in and find out more about that. So as mentioned, we've got the alternative master perks feature coming. So every master, that's all of the 14 masters, will have a new master perk. Not necessarily 1, 2 or 3, just randomly one of those, depending on how the design and the decision has been made. We're not going to go through these in particular detail here because, as I said, we've done that in a previous video and a lot of them haven't changed. So we've got Diona with the Black Potion, we've got Rampo with the Squeak Attack, we've got Tronvir, with the Runic Attunement. And just one thing to mention with the Squeak Attack, I think their damage has gone down from 25 to 15, so that's kind of been nerfed a little bit based on previous discussions. We got Morelia, perk 1, Rites of the Dead. Tomb of the Deathless for Mordor. I don't think that's changed. Okay, so the biggest change here is to Milloween's Zanian spellbook, and this has even changed since this document came out, and I'll tell you exactly why. So the Zanian spellbook is the perk 2 replacement, which is currently the arcane missiles. So the idea is you get a spellbook that contains 4 spells, and you choose one of them to cast, and it costs you 2 less mana to cast it. Now, the original design, which was something that we covered previously, was you would just get 4 random spells. So they could be anything. The only one that got replaced was the one that you cast. So heavy randomness, and you could definitely end up with cards with spells that you don't want to use. So the feedback of that was not particularly positive, so the devs have changed that. So the idea now is you get 4 spells, and you will get 1 buff spell, 1 summon spell, 1 control spell, and 1 nuke spell. And then you'll choose one of those, and then the next time you open the spellbook, you'll get a completely refreshed random list of these spells, one from each of those. You could get the same as you had before, you might not. And the thing that's changed a little bit is the buff spell includes Arcane Ring, which is kind of either a mistake or a little bit confusing because Arcane Ring is a 1 mana spell plus 1 mana freeze, so that's difficult to discount that by 2 mana. So the Arcane Ring has been replaced with the spell that I can't remember now, which is the Border Patrol kind of spell that gives you the shield. The Armored Escort, nailed it. Okay, so we've got buff spells, Armored Escort, Rampage, Glensbrew, Spirit Infusion, Sunburn, or Nats. Summon spells, Blind Date, Morgul's Mark, Cheese Date, Raging Reinforcements, Infiltration, Restless Dead, or Bridge Buddies. And remember, we've got a wide range here of the various cost of the spells, but they'll all be reduced by 2. And reminder, you're choosing to summon only one of them. Control spells, Shock Rock, Impetus, Grasping Thorns, Snap Freeze, Layla's Vortex, Black Hole, Hypnotize, and the nuke spells, Daggerfall, Fireball, Chain Lightning, Blade Star, Scritillary, Beam of Doom, and Bearvalanche. So, still an element of randomness in there, but way less than was in the previous design. So, you know, hopefully with all of these different options covering different types of spells, you're more likely to get something that you can work with. And as I mentioned, it does refresh each time you open the spellbook, so unlike the previous design, again, you could end up with just spells locked in that you're probably never going to use. Mountain Shaper in solos, so that kind of thing is going to be avoided. So I think this is a healthier design, and something that reduces the randomness of it. Right, Apep's got the Slave Driver, Valorian with the Fervor, which is the Fervent Warrior. Haven't made a video about that yet. Hopefully I can do, because that was something that was changed and wasn't in the latest PTR, but is in this PTR. So every 25 seconds at perk 2, you get the Fervent Warrior, which is a warrior with Divine Shield, Armor of Holy Fire, and costs 3 mana. So that seems kind of strong. Every 25 seconds, getting a 3 mana unit for 3 mana, plus effectively a free Divine Shield and Armor of the Holy Fire. So it seems like that could be particularly strong. And of course, if you're choosing that, you're foregoing the healing from the Holy Light, whatever it's called. Mimic Magic. It says 1 second cooldown here for King Buff. That might be a new thing. So that means that like everything can't attack something and steal all the buffs at the same time. Endless Rage for Volko hasn't changed. Settsu Air Support. So this one's kind of interesting because it's a replacement for Setsu's perk 3. We know that's kind of OP, and you see this one and you're like, why would you ever choose this one over the regular Settsu one? Well, that's because the regular Settsu one is being reworked, and we'll cover that shortly. Right, Wrecked perk 3, Mass Illusion. Don't really think much has changed with that. We've got Stormbringer, Cloud Cover, and Ravager Overpower. Okay, so those are the alternative master perks. As I said at the start, not many of them have changed, but it's worth just reminding ourselves about it. Right, let's go through the proposed buffs like we would normally have in a balance patch, a PTR. Right, Crossbow Clubhouse. This has been receiving lots of buffs, and we need to be careful again that it doesn't get over buffed. So the attack cooldown going to 0.5 seconds. So remember, one of the recent changes was to reduce its duration, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but people seem to like that. So the idea is you get a little bit of DPS, and then you get the guys coming out at the end, rather than sort of sustained DPS, which personally I would prefer. Right, this is a huge change for the Frostberry Bear. I love this. So he's got 1 extra charge reserved for itself. So the problem I always had with the Frostberry Bearer is because it's basically a wild stone Bjorn at heart, right? With the thick hide. So you want that to be your tank. But if you tank with it and then it dies, it doesn't do anything because it has these support charges which Glens Brew the units close to it, the friendly units, when they get down to 50%. So it's kind of weird. Do you play it at the front? Do you play at the back? Now this makes it easier to tank with it because it has an extra charge reserved for itself. So when it tanks, when it gets down to 50% health itself, it will then Glens Brew itself. So I do like that. I still don't think it's ideal, but it's definitely better. Right, Frost Feathers. Attack cooldown going down, which means their attack rate goes up, which means their DPS increases. So this is going to it won't affect the flyby because they only do 1 attack, but it will affect just the regular Frost Feathers that we don't see too much. Highland Huntress also getting a buff, attack cooldown going down to 1.3 seconds, so again DPS increasing. Doesn't speed up her Vicious Strike though, because that's based on a timer, right? Every 6 seconds I think. Karmic, that's one of the new cards, which I don't have the details to hand, but basically he's getting a little stronger. Nether Step. So Nether Step currently gives you Swarmers equal to the number of Voidborns in your hand. The change is going to give you Swarmers equal to the number of Voidballs in your hand plus 1. So that means you get up to a maximum of 4, because you can have this plus 3 of the other Voidborn cards in your hand. And I think also, crucially, it gives you 1 if you have no Voidborn cards in your hand. Null Matrix. So this was the new spell that was added in the last patch that no one really played. So it removes buffs and then does some damage. So it's being buffed to also remove Spirit, which for some reason was not included in the original list of things that it removes. And if it removes a buff, it deals an extra 50 damage. So I think the base damage is 100. So, I mean, we're talking about a 4-mana card. So it can be valuable. But the problem with this card is it really relies on your opponents having buffs that are worth removing. Or available to be removed. Right, Protocol Assassin, Robo Ninja, whatever you want to call her. Move speed goes up to 8, which is pretty fast. Remember, she spawns with her arc/charged and available, and she gets it every 8 seconds, is it? And she's also getting an attack cooldown, so just DPS going up, attacks quicker, better against Horde. So, again, she's one of those units that can be really valuable, but the chances of it happening are few and far between. Really relies on units being clumped up together, which, you know, the good players won't do, especially if they know that the opponent has this card. Right, Rampant Growth removes the knockback effect. So Rampant Growth is the Zenshi spell that consumes all of the Growth Burst shrooms and then heals something. It also stuns and previously knocked back stuff around it. And I think the idea with the removal of the knockback is that if you're knocking things away and you're stunning them as well, it's kind of like negating the stun because they're further away from you. They can't attack you anyway without moving, and they're stunned. So the idea, I guess, is to stun stuff while it's close to you, and then you can take advantage of that stun. Screaming Scrat, damage going up to 90. Don't hate it. It's kind of overshadowed most of the time by the Rocket Scrat, and also the new bridge changes make it a little more difficult to utilize this. There's certain things you could do previously that you can't do now to take a bridge with it. Stormy getting an attack cooldown down to 2 seconds. This seems strong because I think Stormy stuns for 2 seconds, so it sounds like Stormy can stun lock things, which could be concerning, especially if you heal it. But the other side of this coin is that because it's attacking more quickly, its DPS is going up, and of course it does its self DPS. That means it's harder to heal it and keep it alive. So Stormies are likely to be more of a flash in the pan where they get a lot of value and then they kill themselves. It's going to be very difficult to heal them, keep them alive. Right, Urclaw, the big bear. And again, this is kind of similar to the Rampant Growth change. So instead of when it roars at 50% knocking stuff back, it will stun stuff around it. Because the knockback doesn't really help it too much. It keeps it alive, but it can't get value against that. So the stun kind of makes it a little bit more valuable, I think. Right, and then here's the big one. We got a rework for Settsu. And this is following on from what I said about her alternative master perks. So this is reworking her perk 2 and perk 3 a little bit. So currently her perk 2 is simply the combat reload, which reloads your clip of 5 shots. And then perk 3 is the high powered laser, which does the AoE stun and massive damage. And of course, when you use that in combination with perk 2, reloading it, you can stun, which always made her super, super strong. So that's getting changed a lot. So perk 2, combat reload. You still trigger the reload with a spell, but after that reload, your first shot deals an extra 60 damage. So it's not simply about reloading, it's about actually doing more damage as well. And then her perk 3, the high-powered laser, deals no bonus damage. First shot after a reload. Okay, so it does no bonus damage. And instead of the high-powered laser being the big AoE stun, instead of that being the first shot after a reload, it's every 5th shot. Now, I'm just not sure if that's every 5th shot if you do like 2 shots and then reload and then the 3rd one in that, or if it's the last shot in a clip. Would definitely need to try that, but that seems a big nerf, right? But I think it's healthy as long as this version is still strong enough to, you know, actually be worthy of a perk 3. So basically you can't just jump into something and stun lock it forever. So that's a huge nerf. And definitely, there's a lot of players that play Settsu at a very high level, but only play Settsu at a very high level. It'd be interesting to see if they adapt to this, if they switch to the alternative perk, or if they play a different master. Let me know, as always, in the comments. What do you think about this? Is this too much of a nerf in the form of a rework for Settsu? Does it need something else? Not sure. But it's definitely something we can test out. Right, we're still in... I don't know why the rework's kind of halfway in the buff section. It's definitely not a buff rework, I would say. Right. Okay. I guess these are all reworks. Or kind of rebalances, right? So, Scrat Launcher getting reworked. Mana cost going down to 3 from 5. Damage for each shot going down from 60 from 100. I feel like it can do 10 shots. I'm not sure. That seems like a lot. I can't remember if it's 500 or 1,000 damage. It does a lot of damage. But anyway, it's damage going down. It's health going down. And its duration going down. So, less cost, less damage in terms of each hit and the number of hits it can do since the duration is down. And the health is reduced, so it's a lot easier to deal with. It's a lot easier to shut it down. So, unsure. I'm not sure if the reduction in the cost makes up for everything you're losing, but I think it's healthier. Because these are so disgusting when you just can't get on top of it. But now there's no wild cards in, or duplicate cards in pre-mades. It's definitely not so much of a problem as it used to be. Zeppelin Bomber. Damage going down to 50. Health going down to 75. But when you activate it, it also gains Rage. So remember, the way the Zeppelin Bomber works now is normally it has the barrel shield. If you had the Scrat Swarm, which we call activated, where you've got 5 Scrats in the opponent's side, then it loses the shield, and now it gains haste and rage. And I think this changes to try to make the activated version a bit more attractive, because a lot of the times the unactivated version is just better, because it's got that barrel shield. Right, nerfs. Apep. Apep, always a very highly played master. Getting a little nerf here. Is it going to be enough? Who knows? But it is slowly getting nerfed. Remember in the last patch, I think we had the shield totem reduction in terms of health. So it's kind of, its power's getting whittled away a little bit. So the cooldown for its perk 1 and perk 2, your free 2 and 2 and 4 mana cards, sorry, are going up by 2 seconds, so there's longer time between them, and you get less value over the longer period. Seems like a very small nerf, but I guess they're just trying to just reduce its power just a little bit each time. Right, Bounce Spree Flingers. Attack cooldown is going up. So the Flingers are strong because they're a decent enough unit. You get 2 of them in terms of Myriad, and you get the Shroom with each one. So I feel like the Shroom is super valuable, so the offshoot of that is that the actual Flinger itself needs to be less valuable. So cooldown going up, so that means it attacks more slowly. Nether Bats, these are very kind of annoying. And again, their attack cooldown going up a little bit. Skeleton Crew, a lot of people have said to me about how powerful Skeleton Crew is. Even outside of an Accursed deck with the new deck rules, the new bridge rules, because you can play on the bridge with them, and the skeleton's fairly tanky compared to something like a Scrat to survive that 1.5 seconds. So the idea is to reduce the wild card count of this, so that's only something that's going to be affected in randoms. That's nice to say. And the increased skeleton count that you get from Ascension is going to go up to 2. Sorry, go down to 2. So previously it was 3 and then 3 extra. Now it's 3 and then 2 extra. Little bit of a nerf. Slitherbound, poison duration. So this is the amount of poison that the Slitherbound applies per attack is going down from 3 seconds to 2 seconds. So that's quite a substantial nerf. because the poison is 20 DPS a second. So that's quite a lot less poison, and of course if you've got a lot of Slyther bounds overall, that's going to be less valuable. Unholy Ground, duration going down to 6 seconds from 5 seconds, and another nerf to the Wartrak Dreadnought. Maybe sometime we'll get into it a balance. It does definitely feel better after the latest round of nerfs. I still think, especially in solos, the perk 3 version is just too powerful. So the attack cooldown for its basic attack going up to 2.5 seconds from 2.2 seconds, so attacks slower. It can still deal with Horde because it still has AoE, but remember the latest round of nerfs reduced its AoE, but its DPS goes down. Missile Scrat, radius going down from 14 to 10, so the Missile Scrat is the perk 3 Scratillery launcher kind of that comes from the back, so it won't be able to hit things so far away, and I think especially it won't be able to hit things kind of like on the other bridge that it kind of seemed to do before. The AoE radius of the Missile Scrat going down a little bit as well. I don't know why that was increased in the last one, seemed completely unnecessary. And the cooldown of the Missile Scrat going up. So we got the base attack being nerfed as well as the Missile Scrat. Really interested to hear from you guys. Let me know, what do you think about the Wartrak currently? Does it need these nerfs? Are they going to be enough? If not, what else does it need? Right. So that's it. Quite a lot to cover in that PTR. We had the alt perks, and of course we had a lot of the balance changes as well. So let me know in the comments as always, what do you think of these proposed changes? Are the things being nerfed that don't need to? Are the things not being buffed that need to? All of those discussions are always kind of interesting to have. And yeah, let me know what you think about the new Milloween spellbook compared to the previous version. This one seems a lot healthier, a lot less random, and I think it will give people a lot more of a chance to check it out. As always, if you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. YouTube always tells me that most people that watch the content are not subscribed, which is fine, but if you want to keep up to date with Minion Masters stuff, I'm your man. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and make sure you turn the notifications and the bell on and select all notifications so you don't miss out on any of the updates. Because if you have it on personalized, it's kind of cringe to talk about it, but you know, I don't want people missing out on stuff. Give us a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon here in the fish tank.